This is Thoughts with C, J, and L.
A podcast by 3 Asian American people with thoughts on being Asian, American, and people.
Hi, everybody. So we recorded this episode in September, and at the time we were thinking, oh, we were going to do season 3 immediately, but our plans have changed, but we still wanted to give you this amazing episode that we filmed and taped because we think it's really fun and really good.
Well, okay, I don't think my parts are great, but I agree. This is a great episode. There are just some tidbits in there that hint at a season 3. That's not the actual season 3. We kind of lied. We had a whole theory. It's no longer something we're working on.
We do have a season 3 coming up though, so be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
Bye, Jane. See you soon.
All right, so current events, late 2021. It is the end of September right now, and Shang Chi just came out, sort of, like a couple weeks ago, and I think we have a lot of thoughts on this movie. Yes?
Yes.
Perhaps.
And so I think one good way to jump into this new season is let's start by talking about this movie because it is definitely news in the Asian American community.
Truly.
I guess maybe not as current as it was a couple weeks ago when it first came out, but
I think we've had time to digest.
I agree. To reflect.
Yeah. Let's see, what do we got?
Okay, so to start off, very subjectively, like just based off of your own vibes and impressions, everybody rate the movie on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being really, really bad, and 10 being really, really good.
Should we go in order? Because I feel like we shouldn't shout out at the same time.
You should shout it out. No.
We can shout it out and type it and then say/send at the same time. And then we'll just reiterate, go around so the audio is not messed up.
Wait, so we're saying it and typing it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, we can all type it and then just say
Okay, yeah. Okay, I have my types. Yeah. 3, 2, 1, send.
Wait, what the heck?
Dude.
Wait, I changed mine now.
No, that's why we did it at the same time. You can't change your answer. All right, how should we do this? I feel like
we should just first say what we ranked it. I'll go first since I said mine first. I said 7 out of 10.
I said 8.5 out of 10.
I said 4. Okay, can I explain?
No.
This? I was rating this with that 5 is average, not in terms of
Yeah, that's still really bad. It's below average.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Okay.
Yeah. So, but it's wait.
Okay.
It's still bad.
Okay, I thought Cats was going to be a lot lower.
Me too, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. I also thought I was being too generous because I want us to have a fight.
Okay, how should we?
Wait, Kat, were you rating it where 5 was an average?
Yeah, I think so. For me, I think a 5, if we're talking about Marvel movies, I think there's a lot worse Marvel movies. I guess my range was 1 would be a bad Marvel movie and 10 would be the best Marvel movie.
Oh, so, this is where
as a Marvel movie, it's your standard Marvel movie, in a good way. Because you have your standard boring Marvel movie. I'm not gonna say which one I think would be a 5 out of 10 because I don't want to get canceled. But I have I have movies in my mind that I'm thinking of that I would rank as a 5 or 3 or 1 or 2. So that's how I went about it.
Wait, okay, see, this is where I'm taking a class on this. So being very specific about the rank. If it's on Marvel movies, I think I would have ranked it a lot lower, but in general as a movie, I thought that it was higher.
Wait, I feel like I would have ranked it higher if we were just going off of Marvel movies.
See, that's interesting because I would have done lower for a Marvel movie.
See, I think I would have done a little bit lower for general movie. Like it might have gone down to a 6 or a 5.
Wow. So this tells us what we think about Marvel movies.
There's some good Marvel movies.
Uh-huh. Apparently one of them is not Shang-Chi. But let's get into this a little bit. So I think we will stand by our rankings and say that it's as a normal movie.
Yes. Or I think I stand by my rating regardless, my 7 out of 10.
Okay, so these are like normal movie rankings. On Rotten Tomatoes, this is what we would give them.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So, why are you guys wrong about your opinions?
Oh, excuse you.
That okay, should we start? Should I can go first and I can talk about what I didn't like, or should I talk about what I liked?
No, talk about what you didn't like.
What I didn't like.
Because I think most people will agree with what they like.
Okay, my biggest gripe with this was that I just thought the storyline was really messy. Like, I feel like my biggest issue was the tone shift. Like, okay, there's going to be spoilers. I can't talk about this without giving spoilers.
No, yeah, but the whole movie we should be getting into it. Like I would
Okay, okay,
assume that
okay, okay.
most Asian Americans should have watched this
I,
movie.
I okay, so yeah, the reason why I don't think I could give it anything higher than a 7 out of 10, I could only go lower, is I just think that I wasn't satisfied by the storyline or the plot. I just think that the first third of it, but basically before the dad came into the picture, the mood was like super chill, super jokey, Simu and Aquafina's characters, they were like LOL jokes the whole time. And then all of a sudden, the dad came and he was like, I was an assassin trained to kill at age 13. And I feel like that switch just didn't, I don't think anybody could have pulled that off because it was too intense.
He was like, I gotta kill my dad.
Yeah. And then I felt like I got pulled in like 5 different directions by the plot after that switch. And I don't know. I think I really enjoyed the first third of the movie. And then once the switch happened, I think everything sort of fell apart for me in terms of the writing. But I mean, obviously, like it's a really well produced movie. Like the design and the everything was like visually very stunning. And so, high production value.
Wait,
But
so you didn't like it because the mood changed too fast, but was it like how it changed or that it changed at all?
Wasn't it just like very like or Simu's character was kind of inconsistent? It's like his personality and his vibe at the beginning versus at the end. There's not a lot of, I would say, like character development in a sense, where like he's like slowly going through these changes and turns into like a different character at the end. But it's just a sudden change where first he's like this really funny character who's like just fun vibes and just living life, and then suddenly he's like super dark, and then it's just like there was nothing in between that happened when he changed.
Okay, so I think this might be a hot take then. I think that it was all justifiable because, like, I think he was hiding his whole life from that other side of him and he didn't want it. And so he was just trying to be someone else. But, like, if you've trained, especially in your youth, to be like that, I'm sure I'm getting way more analytical than it should be. But it's like, if that's how you grew up, it's really easy to revert back to that. And, like, having that single moment of figuring out that his dad is looking for him, I think is like, oh, that kind of makes sense because that's who he was. And then it's like this thing is bringing it back up and he has to kind of go back into his assassin ways because he moved for a reason and it was to like get away from all of that and he wanted to become someone else. And so he did. But then I think it's like easy to show that you can't really hide from that or run away from that. And like not everything is what seems to be. And I think too, like that kind of goes into the Asian American experience a little bit. I know that a lot of people have facades of what they are as opposed to what actually goes on at home. And I think that it's like it's not unreasonable to actually do that. Because I feel like too, with like certain friends or something, once I get to know them more, granted it's not like a 2-hour movie, but like once I get to know them more, I see them in a different light. And like if there's something as big as I used to train a whole bunch, I can see how they would act differently. There'd be a shift. And I think it also goes to show like one person isn't so singularly two-dimensional, but
I
I
think
don't know, like it is just a movie. So like the storytelling and the way that they do it is important.
yeah, I agree with that. I think it's just the weird part is that once the shift happened, you never really saw his goofy, good vibes part of him after that.
I
Like I
thought
would
you did.
expect it was like, I don't know. I feel like I didn't really see it
Hmm.
in the later half of the movie. And because we didn't, to me, it wasn't that obvious. It seemed like he just turned into a different character. And
Mm.
like if he was like really intense for a little bit and then like goofy and then like back and forth where they integrated like those two personalities really well, then I feel like that would make more sense to me. But for me, I didn't really see that in his
Mhm.
character at the end, which was why I was really confused. I never really thought about how that kind of shift is representative of the Asian American experience.
Mm.
I think that's pretty interesting to think about.
I just came up with it.
I think I was more focused on like the opposite of what you said, Jam. Not that I didn't like pick up on what you just talked about, but I think I felt more that like him in the first half or the first third, I guess, lacked the intensity. Like up until the point where they like had the fight on the bus, I felt like his character was not intense at all. Like I
He did push-ups in the morning.
Yeah, but that's just like a dude thing to do. That's how I saw it. I don't know. I was
Boys
like,
just do push-ups.
like I thought where it was going was that he was going to have to like train and like physically and mentally develop, like there was going to be like some type of transformation. I didn't realize he was already this assassin. And so when he like started fighting on the bus, I was like, what is happening? But then I was like, okay, I can vibe with this. Like if it's just his like thing, like goofy, but like also, multi-dimensional. But then I think it went another step further. And then I sort of felt lost when he started talking about like the stuff with his dad. But
Are we projecting just what we wanted Simu to be? And
I don't
like,
know.
like, why did we have this expectation for him to be so silly? And like, I mean, yeah, like that's what his personality was at the beginning with like Aquafina. But I think it stuck. I mean, like at the end when they started talking with their friends again and they were trying to explain the whole crazy story at the bar.
Oh yeah, I
Like,
forgot about that.
Um, I feel like that's maybe a reason why I have a different perspective on the movie is because I've seen Simu and Aquafina before. So I already have like preconceptions about their characters. Like I've seen Simu on YouTube, like on Wong Fu, and like Aquafina obviously in like Crazy Rich Asians and The Farewell. So it's like, I don't know, maybe this goes into like there's just so few Asian actors and actresses on the big screen. So it's like we only have these like limited number of people to see. And so like we bring, or at least I bring, the different characters that they've played before and like their personality like in real life into the movie. And another thing of like already knowing these people from previous projects is that I don't know. I already know that they're Asian American slash Asian Canadian. And then so I expected this movie to represent more of like the Asian American side, but I felt like the movie was more about Chinese culture specifically and not necessarily the Chinese American experience or even Asian American experience as a whole.
I think that's interesting because I think if you brought this movie to China, they would not like it.
Yeah, I don't think they would either, but I
Yeah.
definitely don't think it speaks to the Chinese American experience. Because I mean, I feel like in media, it was portrayed as this, oh, it's the Asian American movie. So, like, when I went in, I was like, okay, I was expecting it to be more than just a movie, I guess, and to illustrate more of the Asian American experience and lifestyle. I don't know.
Wow, look at us, Asian Americans with high expectations for other Asian American things.
I definitely don't think, well, this is another point, I guess, that kind of goes into all this. I agree that I definitely don't think it was an Asian American movie. Like at the
Same.
very least it was, or at most, I guess, it was like a Chinese American specific movie. So yeah, I agree that that's like one spot where the marketing, especially for this, I think I disagreed with. Because I saw it and I was like, I mean, I'm Chinese American, so I can sort of pick up on different aspects of this and be like, oh, okay. But I like it's very specifically Chinese American, if at all. So
I wonder though if, granted, there was not a lot of marketing for it, but if they did that just because that would get more views. I don't know, just in general, like Chinese American experience isn't even like a hot word that you would see on Twitter, whereas Asian American experience is. And so just saying that, I feel like also like social justice warriors would be like, I'm supporting this Asian American movie. And it's like, it's not really that. I don't know. I think too, it's like when it comes to these things and like it's a superhero movie and it's also, you know, is it a superhero that happens to be Asian American or is it an Asian American superhero movie? Which I think there's like a
mm,
distinction between the two.
yes, because right before the movie for Shang-Chi played, there was a trailer for Eternals
Mhm.
that's coming out.
I'm so
And
excited for that one.
yeah, so I was thinking about how Eternals, like with Gemma Chan, and also oh my gosh, what's the other actor's name? I can't remember his name.
Look at
Oh, he got super buff for this movie.
Yeah. Or I mean, I don't know. I just think there's like a very large POC cast in Eternals.
Mhm.
At least that was the vibe I got from the trailer. But then it's not like, a POC movie, for example. It's not being marketed or talked about as that. And also the director. Mm.
Mhm.
So I was thinking about it, and I don't know if we talk about like representation in media and stuff. Maybe this is more so the type of representation that I think of, the type that's like not explicit. It's the concept of like, we don't need to make this a whole Asian American movie just to cast Asian actors. Like, they can just be in movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's also a thing of the times where it's cool, hip to be progressive and care about other, you know, POC or whatever movements are going on, especially with like the Stop Asian Hate thing.
Mhm.
But I don't know. It's interesting because I think on TikTok, anyways, that's where I got all these, you know, all this research data. It's like they were so angry that there was no marketing for this, and they were like, oh, well, you know, it's probably because he's like. It's interesting that he's Asian, and this is like the one Marvel movie that's not getting any attention. And then the other side of it is like, I don't know if I don't know. It's like a mix. Like I don't want people to do things because of my race
Mhm.
but I do want it to be acknowledged that like this is an important part of who I am and it's my culture. And there's like a really fine line of like respecting it, but also not making it the only thing that is about me. And
Mhm.
so that's where I kind of struggle with like it being the Asian American. Because yes, I totally 100% agree. Representation is so, so, so important. But I like it's like weird when it's intentional and forced almost rather than
Mhm.
like this is what fits and this is what works and is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like with what's the athlete? I don't know anybody's names. This is not me being, you know, like ignorant ignorant of anything. I just don't know famous people. I don't my brain can't do it. But that Suni Lee,
Yeah.
that I don't remember what ethnicity she
No,
was.
okay, but I was thinking about gymnastics, about how okay, wait, when Suni Lee won over the summer, I saw this tweet that was talking about like gymnastics all around champions. I should specify women's gymnastics, American all around champions. Um, Actually, I can't remember if it was specific to the US or if it was just like the last couple of Olympic cycles, but I thought it was really interesting because you could tell there was a shift in the types of women that were competing in gymnastics ever since Gabby Douglas won in 2008.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know if there's a difference in the competition pool, but there definitely certainly was a difference in the people who won, because it went that Gabby Douglas, Simone Biles, and then Suni Lee, right? And these are all three women of color compared to probably like the decades of not women of color
Mhm.
that competed. And I think, well, okay, first of all, there was a TikTok that I saw where somebody was like, oh, we all like became aware of our own existence during the 2008 Beijing Olympics, which I sort of related with because I feel like what we were in middle school then, that's like a period of time where you become aware of your own existence in a weird way because it's like transitioning into your adolescence. But anyway, I think I was thinking back and I remember seeing on the Olympics and on the news how people are like, oh my gosh, like Gabby Douglas competing, this is such a big deal. And then back then I was like, whatever, you know. Or I think I didn't really understand the significance of it. But looking back now, I'm like, wait, that type of representation has had an impact that's gone like what it's been like 10 years and it's so noticeable, right? And so I don't know what my point is. I guess my point is representation works, but what type of representation? And yeah, I don't know. It was something cool that I was thinking about over the summer.
Yeah, I mean, because in sports, it's not like anyone is competing just because of their race.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're an athlete who happens to be a person of color. But in movies, I guess a lot of what we're seeing is a lot of people of color are being casted because they are people of color. And because of the storyline is specifically about a certain culture or like their background or whatever.
Yeah, I guess media literally is representation of three themes and life in general. So
Yeah.
Maybe it's because like the way that maybe I won't say we, that I, as an Asian American person, engage with general like American culture or what is established as the American culture. Like, I don't feel like my engagement is a super different type of engagement. Maybe it's a case of I feel different, but not that different.
elaborate.
Or at least like I don't feel as different as, oh my gosh, this is getting too much into episode one. So I keep talking about the switch that happened in Shang-Chi, right? Like the first third where things were like chill and he was just like sort of basically this normal dude, your average Joe. I think that's how I feel a lot about me as an Asian American person in the US. I just be vibing. But then the switch happened, you know, when his family came in, and then all of a sudden I felt like the movie became very cultural. And then I think I sort of felt lost because I think my experience as an Asian American, I have had less engagement with my Asian culture than I think a lot of Asian American media portrays.
So the first half of the movie was more relatable for you.
Yeah. And then the second half, I think, I mean, I get that he like turned into a superhero and it's not meant to be relatable, but maybe like thematically or conceptually.
I don't know. I feel like I have the same kind of sentiment where I really like the first half of the movie, basically before they met their dad. Like the beginning was like really relatable and like when I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I came for. It's like that whole like oh just going through the day and then like that scene with Katie's family like eating breakfast and that kind of lifestyle. I was like, oh yeah, that's relatable for me. But I felt like when the shift happened, it's like, yes, it was the story became a lot about culture, but I also felt like it didn't really talk about culture in a sense. It felt like they were using these cultural aspects like just for a superhero movie, but not actually because like, I don't know how to explain this, but it's
Basically,
like,
we should have written this movie and then we would have gotten the vibes. No, I will get canceled for that. I should not be in charge of writing a movie.
no, it just felt like like at the end, it felt like a generic superhero storyline, but with pops of culture symbols and elements here and there. You know what I mean?
Maybe I just felt like there was no payoff for the quirkiness that got set up in the first third.
Yeah.
I mean, there was at the very end when they like did the dinner with the friends, but
But even that, I feel like it was another tone change.
exactly, okay. It just, the end felt like a fever dream. Like, if I am projecting myself into this movie, it would have been like, okay, I'm living my life, and then I go to bed and I have this wild dream, and then I wake up. I'm like, what was that? I think that's the vibe that I got from the story or like the writing of this movie.
Does there need to be payoff though for like
I think, okay, let me just clarify everything. I feel like I'm being really hard on this movie. Because so many people came up to me before I saw this, because I didn't see it. I think I saw it 2 weeks after opening. So many people, my family included, shout out to my brother, they were like, this is the best movie ever. In my TikTok feed, people were like, what is it? Not album of the year. That's like a phrase in music, like movie of the year, film of the year. I was like,
yeah.
all right, let's go. And then I went into it and I was like, there's just some fundamental movie writing issues, I think, that I don't like about it.
But like would you grade a movie as harshly or like in the same manner if it wasn't Asian, like the way that it was written if it wasn't an Asian American movie or like just in
I would
general
still
as
give
a
it like a
movie?
6 to 7 out of 10. Like I just Asian American thing aside,
Yeah.
I think it I thought it was a fun movie. It was
Mhm.
charming, standard storyline. Writing was a little messy, but like I don't regret, like I wasn't like sitting there like it wasn't like Cats or anything. Like I want to claw my eyes out. I'm in pain. Like definitely was not
You
that.
see Cats?
No.
Oh
I
my
wish I
god.
did though.
Like just
I
for the experience, you know.
Yeah, I like watching train wreck movies. There's something enjoyable about them.
I feel like I would have rated it probably higher if it wasn't specifically an quote unquote Asian American movie.
No.
Because I feel like because this movie was marketed as an Asian American movie, I feel like there's so much weight to it and what it, I guess, represents. And then so going in with that expectation, I think I was disappointed. But if it was just a generic movie, I mean, I probably wouldn't have rated it that much higher, but I think it's just like the added expectation. And I feel like I feel like I'm also being really harsh to this movie, but maybe that's just me and my expectations going in that made the my impression of the movie not so great.
Oh yeah, expectations definitely like influences your rating because I went into it completely different. I was like, this is a superhero. Like for me, Marvel movies are like fun and not serious. And so I was like, yeah, it's just and it's a Marvel movie and like I'm not gonna
I think
expect it to go that deep. I want, little pieces of like Asian American things, but I was like, because too, I've been like watching the TV shows and I want to know like how he ties in with everyone else.
mhm.
So I think I was more going for that. But then like for movies like The Farewell or even Always Be My Maybe, like
Dude, always
I
be
felt
my wait. I literally love I need to rewatch that movie because I think like in terms of, Asian American movies that have come out, honestly, Always Be My Maybe I think has been my favorite, but I barely remember what happened. Like I just remember the afterglow of watching that movie being the best. And it's like the least talked about. Like everybody, because I mean it was like Netflix, right? But I feel like everybody's like, oh, Crazy Rich Asians, The Farewell. But I just think about Always Be My Maybe and the feeling I had after watching it. I need to
yeah.
rewatch it. Oh my God.
That sigh. Yeah. But I mean like with those movies, I feel like those had more of a Asian American vibe flair of like, oh, this is the movie that I want or this is the movie where there's more potential to talk about different themes and things that I relate to. I mean, for me, like forever after seeing like Iron Man for the first time when I was little, that's been the tone for every single movie. I expect action and then I expect a little comedy.
Mhm.
And like that will do it for me. And so the fact that Asian Americans got one, it was like, oh, that's cool. Like it's something to support. But it's like we were we weren't invited, but like Stanley, why would he write an Asian American character? I feel like that would have been a little problematic. Like the fact that this is based off of a real comic. But anyways, it's like, hey, we got one. I don't know. It's just
Mm.
it wasn't that serious. And I think too, like one of my friends called it a Marvel or a kung fu movie with a Marvel budget, which I'm like, basically.
Mhm.
One though thing that did bother me a lot was like how much tension there was between the mom and the dad when they met and like that whole fighting scene. And then
Oh yeah.
Simu does the same moves to his own dad. And I was like, you expect me not to like associate those two scenes together? Like, it felt a little bit like what is that? What is it called? Like an Oedipus, like complex, like
Oedipus?
not the same by any means, but some Freud, and I was just like,
No, I got you.
anyways, that's how I took it. And that's why I thought it was pretty top notch.
Mm. No, I think I was prepared. That's how like initially, but like before it actually got released, I think that's how I was thinking about it. I was like, yeah, cool. But then I think somewhere along the way, my expectations went up way too high. And again, like, I don't think I was necessarily disappointed because I think in hindsight, my expectations were sort of unreasonable. But which again is why I feel like my rating, I feel good about it regardless. Like, I'm like, had a fun time, solid movie. But like if I'm gonna be nitpicky and debate with somebody hypothetically who thought it was a really good movie, I was like, these are reasons why I feel like I cannot make this like I can't say that this is the best movie ever or some type of cinematic masterpiece.
I mean, it's always good though to have those expectations because that means it's like how it shows how much better it can be and
Mm-hmm.
what there could be and what, there should be probably. You should stop applying. Don't take your GRE. Go into media.
At the end of the day, Marvel is just another corporation and they're just trying to make money off of us.
Honestly, okay, this should be another episode, but like Hollywood in general.
Mm, um,
Anyway,
should we TLDR slash also talk about stuff that we want to cover later in the season? If there's
I feel like
anything. Hmm?
we didn't talk as much as I wanted to about, the Asian American experience, but I feel like it'll come later.
We have so many more episodes
So
to tape.
that'll be the little cliffhanger.
Wait,
Yeah.
like in general, or like is there a certain topic that you wanted to cover? We can
Just related to the
brainstorm.
movie. Just related to the movie.
Mm.
Wait. Keep going then. What do you mean?
Well, I guess okay. Because I feel like we mostly talked about like that shift. Whereas I think there is also potential to talk about how it made you feel. Like for me, one thing that I thought about was in my own personal experiences, I think I feel pretty grounded in, who I am as an Asian American because I have my community, I have my culture, and I'm like, okay, I know generally what the rest of, my friends feel and like, what's actually true about our own experiences. And so that's why I think I was able to take Shang-Chi as a Marvel movie. That's how I wanted it. But for other people who don't have as big of like an Asian community in America for them, it's like, oh, do I want people to see this and think this is what the Asian American experience
This
is?
is definitely something we need to keep talking about. This is definitely a cliffhanger for our next episodes because I will piggyback off of that and say that I think that I personally have always felt like sort of disconnected from like overarching Asian American discourse. And this movie sort of further cemented that for me. Like I was like, I don't know if this is necessarily what I think of as the Asian American experience, as Asian American representation, as Asian American whatever. And I don't know, I feel like it was a little bit difficult for me to like separate. I don't know, I'm losing my train of thought, but
Yeah, I mean, this can definitely lead into like how we grew up and like the things we were exposed to as in our childhood, which I think affects a lot in the way that we view our Asian American identity. And even like currently, as we're transitioning into different periods of life, I guess, and just interacting with different people, I think, at least for me, it has made me think a lot about my Asian American identity and how that's different from perhaps the solely Asian identity that I had before, if that makes sense. But like, I mean, like that's definitely something that we can talk about in a future episode.
Ooh, we should talk. Okay, future episode. Yeah, how we felt as Asian Americans growing up, and then how we feel now as
oh
Asian
yeah,
Americans.
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah,
good one.
but I mean, because the way that I saw this movie, it was like so far I've only heard like three takes that I can summarize. So like the first one being me, who was like, "There's so much other media out there. This isn't the movie. Like it's a movie that's relevant and important, but it's not the movie." And then other people who are like, okay, I'm going to hold this to a really high standard because we don't have a lot of media I'm adding you to. But it's like, this is, this is a very important movie that there's a lot to write on. And then I think there are other people who are like, we never get any exposure. We're just happy to be here. It's like, there are different ways to take it.
No, I liked your first take, Boho. And actually, I think I'm going to try to internalize that a little bit in my thinking about this movie, because it's sort of like the whole take of like it contributing to like a greater body of work and whatnot. Like it's something that my PI always says actually about like research, like how every piece you add to it is not going to be necessarily like the end all be all statement, period, at the end of the sentence, whatever masterpiece. It's just you're just adding to like the discourse to what's already out there, and then eventually you build things up. It's like piece by piece. So
I mean, I think too, though, there is good reason to have high expectations. Like this movie had so much potential and the audience that it reaches, like Marvel. I mean, I don't know who like the Marvel demographic is, but it's definitely not people who would watch The Farewell or Call Me Maybe. Is that what it is? What is it?
Call me.
Always Be My Maybe.
Oh my God.
Which everybody should watch that movie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go watch it at some point before the end of the year.
Everyone should listen to Call Me Maybe.
Call Me Maybe starring Randall Park.
And Ali Wong.
But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. We were here to talk about the movie, but there's a lot more we could unpack.
TLDRs.
TLDR. Shang-Chi was a good movie. 7 out of 10.
TLDR. Okay, I had really high expectations, but I feel like that also speaks to my own Asian American experience and how I have high standards for everything, including myself. So in hindsight, it's probably a good movie, but yeah, don't cancel me, please.
TLDR, I'm easily entertained by Marvel movies, so having one about an Asian American was, made it an 8.5 out of 10.
Yes.
Bye, Jane.
Bye, Jane.
Bye, Jane.
I think you're in my bathroom right now, or in my bed. See you in a second.